Okay, I think we're live. Hold on a second. Luckily, this is just the, again, I produce the recordings afterwards, so we're going to cut this out. I just want to double check one thing to make sure we're actually live. And if anyone is out there actively watching, hello and welcome to the stream.
Hello, hello.
Okay, it looks like we are good. So with that, welcome everybody to fullstack.chat. This is a semi-weekly podcast where I invite in builders from around the community to talk through what they're building, and hopefully any viewers out there can get some pretty good advice on potentially launching their own products out. So I have dev tool companies on here to talk about their products. But today I have a very special guest, which is Vadim Savin. He's a former software developer at Amazon and has kind of transitioned his career more into an education platform for mobile app developers called notJust Dev. Is that right?
That's right. Thank you very much, Brian. Hello.
Awesome. Well, go ahead, Vadim. I will pass the microphone off to you to give the audience a quick intro about yourself and just tell everyone about what you're building.
Perfect. So, don't like talking about myself a lot, but long story short, I'm coming from. I tried a lot of different stuff in the past, even though I'm quite young. I was a software developer at Amazon. I also worked from small to bigger companies. I launched startups, and actually, these big corporations are not very exciting for me. So I found like a lot of joy and fulfillment into going into this the startup route where it's not super clear like what you have to do or when and if you're gonna get to a successful milestone, but that's what's exciting. So that's why I launched a couple of startups in the past. And finally, I decided to actually go ahead into the education and launched the notJust Dev, which we have a YouTube channel, we have our courses, and our goal is to help mobile developers go over that fear and also the knowledge gap and actually build and launch mobile applications. So that's what we are trying to do at notJust Dev.
That's great. I'm really excited to talk to you today about mobile development because I feel like a big part of the kind of the cool kids club on tech Twitter or whatnot, whatever it's called these days after they changed the name. It's all about web applications, but there's so much. As someone who recently launched a mobile app, there's so much kind of cool stuff you can do with a mobile app. It's just a different mindset, and I think it is great that you have a platform to educate people on creating mobile applications. But let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into that. So notJust Dev is your platform where you said a YouTube channel, but you also have a website where people can learn more. What inspired you to build notJust Dev? I'm not sure if you have a background specifically in mobile development or you were kind of more of a full stack developer. But yeah, like where did this idea come from and how did you get started?
So the idea came after, I think, throwing a lot of stuff and seeing what sticks. That's a strategy that I think is very good. Like when you're just getting started, is just to try a bunch of stuff and see like what sticks. So at one point, like when I started the notJust Dev, I was actually doing so many things. Like I was finishing up the graduating university. I was having like the internship at Amazon. I was having the startup that I was working in, and I was messing around trying a couple of stuff on YouTube, like here and there. So like the day was quite busy. And when I graduated, I realized that up until that moment, I was always split between so many things, trying different stuff. And I think that was a moment where I decided, like, now the next phase is like I need to focus on something, choose something, and focus. And while the startup at that moment was like we were building it for 3 years and it was going okay, like we were default alive, but it wasn't going great. I didn't feel like kind of a pull from it. And on the other hand, like YouTube, like I've done like a couple of videos and they already started performing very well. I saw a lot of people asking for doing more projects, and I landed on this perfect formula of that combines what I love doing with what actually works. And here I'm talking about like project-based building. So basically I go live and for 4 hours I build a project. For example, I take Instagram and I'm building like a couple of main features from Instagram. And yeah, that's a combination of what I love doing, what I think is great for education, and what people actually take value. And I saw that that is working, and it was very young, like I was doing it for a couple of months, as I said, but there was a pool. And when you're building something, no matter like a app, a startup, a SaaS, this kind of thing, like you can feel it. A lot of people are asking like, when is time to pivot, or when is time to go all in? I think if you're asking the question, like probably it's not, there is no MVP yet. There is no product market fit yet. So at that point, like for me, I felt the pull from the community and I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I can always go back to Amazon, even like after trying for a couple of years. And if it doesn't work, I can always get a good job in the industry. So when, if not now? I was also a teacher assistant at university, and that probably is also like a reason why I was trying like this. I fell in love like with teaching and helping people get to that aha moment, helping them understand complex stuff in easy ways.
Awesome. I want to lean into something you said there, and I want you to kind of expand on this a little bit, even though I think you did a decent job earlier. So you had said, throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Is it true to say that you would say that's not just from like a statistical or monetary perspective, but also kind of a personal perspective?
Can you expand? Like, what do you mean by that?
Sure. So I think there are a lot of builders on tech Twitter that show off their MRR numbers.
Yes.
whether they're accurate or not is a completely other conversation. But like taking them at face value,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people see the numbers and they chase the numbers.
Mhm.
So I wanted to know from your perspective if it is also equally important to also find something that you are specifically passionate about chasing, and how that has benefited
Mhm.
your adventure into notJust Dev, or any of the educational content that you create for that matter.
Yeah, so I think that it's definitely important to work around with things that are interesting to you, because if you're just going after some monetary stuff, I believe the motivation will fade away and it's going to be harder to stick to it. I had some things in the past that even though we're making money, like it was not my passion, and I decided like to stop them. And there are things that might not bring enough money, but at the same time, uh, money in a project like are important. So at least to know that there is potential, and if you combine that with your passion, I think that's the best place. But speaking about like throwing stuff and seeing what sticks, I think like this advice is good at different phases. For example, while starting out, like it's amazing, like throwing a lot of stuff and seeing what sticks, because every new iteration, every new project that you're going to do, you're going to bring all the learnings from the previous one, you're going to apply. Then something is not going to work out, you're going to learn, you're going to apply the same learnings. And all of a sudden, like maybe not all of a sudden, but after a couple of iterations or after a couple of years of moving from failure to failure, you're going to accumulate like the required amount of failures in order to actually build something that, oh, now it works. So it's not by success, it's just by accumulating all of these learnings that we get from failures. And once we get something that is working, I think that's when we have to switch into the focus mode. And that is something that I'm currently struggling a lot with, because I have notJust Dev, which is working, but like as I said, like once or twice a year, I have this urge to build a new product, to build something new, because I have like this itch in myself to always try new stuff. There are so many things, so many ideas that I would love to get into them, and I fight with in my head like constantly before sleep, like between staying focused and trying new stuff. And at the moment, I just realized that I have to stay focused, because as I said, like when you find something that is working, that's not very common, and that's when you have to go all in there.
I imagine that a lot of builders and potential builders share that same sentiment, right? Because that's the thing that draws us to do this work is we like creating new and unique things and learning stuff along the way. So I'm really happy that you shared that. Now, you do still create startups. I mean, that's one of the things that you touched on a little bit while explaining Not Just Dev is there are opportunities you see along the way to build products and new startups. And I think just recently you shared earlier before the show that you kind of kicked off a pretty big initiative at the end of the year to build and launch several products in a short amount of time. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So yeah, once or twice a year, I have a stage of building a startup, building a product, and in order to allow myself to do that, I try to find like how to combine it with like the YouTube, with the content, with everything else that we are doing. And at the end of the year, I decided that let's create a challenge and let's challenge myself to build and launch 4 applications in 4 weeks. It was highly inspired by some of the success stories we see on Twitter of guys building one app every week or one app every month that had success. And I said, like, let's give it a try. I've built this kind of application for already 4 years. Every week I'm building a new one, but they are more for educational purposes. Let me go ahead and do that with commercial purposes, like putting them on the store. So that's what I did. And I also encouraged my whole community to do that by organizing a hackathon. So there were more than 3,000 people that joined this, and we were all building. It was an amazing experience. And out of the 4 that I challenged myself to do, I managed to build 4 of them. I managed to get on the market only 3. That one fell through, just not enough time. Like it's crazy to build an application a week, and actually not a week. It's in total 20 hours because I was building everything live, and the whole process, like from planning all the way until it reaches the market, is documented on my YouTube channel, and every project is 5 videos of around 4 hours. So that was the process.
That's amazing. Now, I think it's also important to highlight that you set yourself a pretty high target. And even though from some measurement, you could say that maybe you didn't hit that target because you only launched 3 out of the 4, but had you not set the 4 target, but you might not even launch 1. So I think
Yeah.
that's also incredibly impressive and definitely a key takeaway from this conversation is to set high targets, because even if you don't get there, chances are you're going to be much better off than if you not set the target in the first place. But of those 3 applications that did launch, what kind of engagement are you seeing on them? And I guess where are they at? Are they on the Android App Store or the Apple App Store, on both?
Yeah. First of all, just want to mention, like you said about the importance of setting targets. I think it's important to set deadlines and see that at this moment, like in 1 month, in 1 week, or in this amount of time, I'm going to launch something, and try to launch something even if it's not perfect. Because in a lot of cases, we developers, and what I see in my communities, we are too perfectionists, and we are going from feature to feature. Then we are going through some updates or some features that we didn't even have like initially planned, and 2 years later you're still like in your editor building of application. So try to set like a milestone, and that will force you to cut down on features and focus on what's the most important, get it out there, and after that you can improve by adding new features. That's what I see is working, and that's what I'm pushing, like a lot of our founders from the community. And answering these questions, like what kind of engagement I get there. So the way I built them was trying to optimize them for app search optimization. So also similar to how we have SEO on the web to index them on Google, we have also App Store optimization on the app stores to index them based on specific keywords. So I was trying to find this, the way I did it. First, I was looking for keywords that have potential, and having potential means they are popular, people are searching for them, and the competition is not very high. meaning that there are no huge applications that takes the whole traffic. So this is the most challenging part, like to find like these great keywords, because most of the ideas that we have like initially uh, might sound great in our head, but if we put them through a research tool, we find out that we're not the only one who thought about them, and it's either going to be a super competitive market where there are applications like, let's say, language learning is dominated by Duolingo. Building a language learning application is very hard if you're targeting this App Store optimization approach. While you, and on the other hand, like having something super niche, you might find that nobody's searching for that. So you have to find like this balance where you find these opportunities that is going to rank your application high for a very specific intent, for a problem that the user is trying to solve. And through that, you're going to get organic traffic. So I was going for this strategy. I didn't invest like in marketing or promoting anywhere this application. I just built, research, built, put them on the market and forgot about them. And the numbers are not like huge. In the last month or a couple of months, the best one has like around 350 downloads. So not a lot, but at the same time, for the first 6 months, Apple is kind of silencing your application, and only after that, it starts receiving like the fair share in the App Store.
That's great insight for app developers. I think it's important also that you noting that it does take a little while for the app stores to like really index and respect your application is great for especially new app developers to understand, because you might put something out there and not see an immediate upsurge of users and then kind of get discouraged to no longer continue to maintain it or build on it necessarily.
Actually, the way Apple works is you launch the application in the first like week or couple of days. It's going to have like a lot of Apple is going to throw a lot of attention to it, impressions, and after that, like for the 6 months, it's just silence, like very little impressions, and after 6 months, it starts growing.
Okay.
That's something that I learned from Adam Lytle. So if you're interested, like he has amazing videos there, and I also had like an interview with him during this process to learn more about like how Apple works. And you also asked me if I did them for both iOS and Android. Even though I'm working with React Native, which is a cross-platform framework, I decided to only launch on App Store just to save time. And we know that App Store, in terms of monetization, is much better. So that was my decision. Like I had like little time, I had to prioritize. I said I'm going to launch on App Store. If it works, it's going to be super easy to do the same on Android.
Okay, so your hackathon, 3,000 developers, 60 launched apps. That is a massive kind of wave of new things that hit the App Store. Tell me a little bit about some of the experiences that those developers had launching them, in the sense of, is this their first app that they had launched? Is this their 10th app that they had launched? And then also, let's also touch on what kind of like common challenges, because if across 3,000 developers, I'm sure you've seen some themes of what people were struggling with along the way. So I would love to dive a little bit deeper into that as well.
Yeah, great question. So this is not the first hackathon. If I'm not mistaken, we're doing it 3 years in a row, because that's how I got into this startup world through a hackathon. And I always remember that hackathon because that's when I first built my first startup, not knowing anything about web development and literally Googling everything. But I built it in one weekend. And with the hackathon, we're trying to create the same environment for our community as well. That's why there are a lot of new developers there. There are a lot of experienced developers that maybe have a job and always wanted to build something on the side. I remember at an event, some guys approached me and they said like, "Hey, like, We participated. We actually we got a place during the hackathon during the previous year, and they showed me the application. We were so excited, and I asked like, why did you join? They're like, we have a job. We are like React Native professional developers, but sometimes at the job, like, you get bored. Like, it's week after week, bug after bug, or the same process over and over and again. And I'm pretty sure everyone, all developers or most developers, have ideas that they might want to build, but we never find the time. We never think that, okay, now I'm going to do it. It's always, now I'm busy, now I have work, now I have family issues, now I have that, now I have this, and it's always like later, later, later. And with the hackathon, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give this short period of time, saying like, hey, just allocate a couple of hours during the weekends or in the evenings and release something. It doesn't have to be the end version that you have in your head, because that would probably take a lot of time, and also not sure if it's smart to invest like so much time into that before testing something out. So let's go ahead and build an MVP, launch it on the market, and take it from there. And that probably was also one part that I see people struggling with, trying to prioritize like what actually matters. I see people starting a project with the login screen. I'm like, just use a tool out there, such as
Just a tool,
Clerk.
right?
Yeah, just a
Any
tool.
random tool.
Any random tool, let's say Clerk for that. And in 5 minutes, you have like authentication set up and focus on the features. Or guys that are working on onboarding screens because before they even actually have like the main feature. So that was the main topic, like trying to let them know what is important, like where to put focus on in order to manage in time. Because the most challenging part is not the beginning, it's the last 10%. When you think like it's almost ready, like the last 10% usually takes like more than half of the time, like that you invested before. Things that you the application is almost ready, but there are things that still have to be done, and they add up to a lot of time. So that's, and also obviously like with app development, another very common challenge is getting your application approved to the stores. This is something that is very different to how web developers and SaaS developers, indie hackers that are mainly on the web, um, it's a different experience, because on web there is no gatekeeper. You can set up a project and launch it to the public like in a matter of minutes. On mobile, the process is a little bit more challenging, time consuming, and there are these gatekeepers, namely Apple and Google, that have to review what goes on the App Store, and they have a last saying what will be on the App Store and what not. And in a lot of cases, like, you might invest a lot of time building an application, launch it, and they say like, oh, this is a crowded market, like we no longer want this kind of application on the store. And then what do? You invested time into that. This is quite bad, like when you invest a lot of time to build something and they don't even want to put it on the store. In most cases, it's just a lot of issues that is not okay, like this is not based on our guidelines, change this, change that, and this process is taking time. I'm always saying like, don't think it's going to go from the first time. Like, it's most probably going to take you a couple of weeks and probably 5 to 7 iterations if it's the first launch. But we all go through that, and this is part of a game, which I really wished it was easier and more similar to web, where you can launch it like in a matter of minutes without gatekeepers.
So, of the 60 apps and the people who have actually successfully launched something, what's some of the feedback you heard from those developers? I imagine it is such, speaking from personal experience, for me, it is such a self-esteem boost when I actually did get my first app published and launched to the App Store. So what's some feedback that you heard from the developers who you would, I'm assuming, helped coach through that process?
Yeah, like we've got amazing feedback, especially from guys that this was the first time launching something. As you said, like this is a huge motivational boost when you have something on the store, especially knowing like for what struggles you went through. It gives a lot of motivation because in a lot of cases we kind of think that we like, especially at the beginning of a journey when learning how to code or when learning how to build something, we kind of feel that we understand the stuff, but it's when putting it in practice, like when we say like, okay, now I got it, and through the challenges, because everyone will go through stuff that is not working, through challenges and through frustrations. And I think at that, like that's the fulfilling part. And yeah, amazing feedback. Like a lot of guys launched first applications. They said like they had like this idea for years, and now they said like, okay, let's try it. Let's see where it goes.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you joined. We're coming up on time now. But this has been a fantastic conversation. The last question I ask all of my guests is for those out there who are interested in launching their own apps. And this could be mobile apps, web applications, doesn't matter. The medium is open. What is one or two pieces of advice that you would have for those individuals to, but as they're getting going in this process?
Yeah. I'm gonna keep it simple. Focus on what matters and leave the details for later. You're gonna have time to come back and polish stuff. Uh, be scrappy initially because that's the only way to get the application in the hands of a user, and that's what you have to strive for initially. Not having a perfect application, not having a perfect funnel monetization strategy, and so on. In first initial phase, you need to get your application in the hands of a user and get real feedback, knowing what's working, what's not working, and then based on that feedback, you can go ahead and optimize stuff. And then you'll find out that maybe things that you thought are important are actually not that important for the end users. And you saved yourself a lot of time. So yeah, go ahead, build stuff. Nowadays with AI, it's so impressive how easy and how fast you can build stuff. It's just a matter of iterations and learn new stuff from each iteration and become better every day.
If people want to find you, Vadim, where can they do so on the internet?
notJust Dev on YouTube. That's the platform where we go live every Friday with project-based tutorials. So we teach how to build these popular applications with React Native, and usually this is full stack. And on Twitter or X, you can find me at Vadim, notJust Dev, and LinkedIn and other social medias. I'm also there as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you once again for joining me. For everyone out there, thank you in the audience for coming to watch this interview with Vadim. I thought this was incredible. I will also note that any links to any of the things we talked about today will be in the show notes, whether that's on the recording afterwards on YouTube, or you can find Full Stack Chat on your favorite podcatcher, on Apple, on Spotify, and any other applications you use. But with that, I will see you all in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.